3 seconds until live. And we are live and now recording. Record on the cloud. Perfect. And then 3 seconds until live. I'm going to mute myself on the YouTube and I think we're good. Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world today. Everyone, we have a very special guest to the Mike Lead program, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves in a little bit because after the LinkedIn stalking I just did, I'm impressed and overly excited. Welcome to this Mike Lead Expire session, sponsored by Mike Talent Solutions. My name is Alejandro Ibanez. I am the Mike Lead Alumni Director, and I'm glad to host Didi today. Didi is currently a CISO and a self-made CISO and has done the journey from security from janitorial all the way up to C-suite. I'm excited to hear their story and talk about all these fun questions. And then I'm going to let Didi speak for herself and introduce herself. Didi, what would you like to say to our audience?
Well, yeah, thank you, Alejandro, for being this, navigating the conversation. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here and very honored, grateful. Yes, I am currently a fractional or virtual CISO, what they call it, which means that I started my own cybersecurity advisory firm a little bit over a year ago. And I'm aiming to help small to medium-sized business enhancing their cybersecurity postures. And my journey as a CISO, like many of people who are in my generation, it was accidental, but I'm so glad with the happy accident. And Alejandro, how deep do you want to go? Do you just want to curate the questions?
So think of this as a small podcast between you and I right now. For those who are usually expecting Mary, Mary was unavailable at the moment. But I usually do I go through, I poke through questions. I say like usually my first question is like ask me about your cybersecurity origin story, because I think that's a good one. I might need to talk to you personally after this about helping as an advisory CISO, because that's my goal in life. And keeping all the fun stuff talking. So we'll just kick it off. Feel free to push on any questions you don't want and any questions you do. Right now, the question I'm more interested in is, tell me about your origin story. Like you said it right there in your introduction and your byline, the whole, you got into cybersecurity by accident, like many in your generation. So tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah, so this was in the early 90s. Oh goodness. Actually in 88. Yeah. So when I came to the States, I didn't speak English, and I only had a little bit of money just to learn English. My parents only had a little bit of money for me just to learn English. But later on, I was able to gain scholarship to stay full time to get my undergrad degree. Now, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do so many different things. But by junior year, I had not declared my major. So the foreign student advisor came
You
talk
got
to
it.
me and said, you gotta declare a major if you want to graduate. You have so many credit hours everywhere, pick one. And
Say,
so I said, oh my gosh, let me just pick accounting because it was the first thing on the list.
oh, have we all been there?
Exactly. And I had no idea what, I took some accounting classes too, and it was just, it didn't vibe with me. I just could not, I mean, I could learn, but I did not have that passion. Um, Fast forward, I went to graduate school, same thing. I said, what am I going to do? I needed a student visa. Maybe I'm just going to stick with being an accountant because, everyone needs an accountant. I could always get a job. So during the campus recruiting back then in 1992, the big 8 public accounting firms, now it's only big 4,
Four. No.
everyone was asking me what I wanted to do, and my answer was always, I really don't know. I don't like accounting. I like computer, but I've never done any computer stuff. One actually responded saying, we have just the right profession for you, and it was called EDP auditing.
Oh, what does that field look like?
Exactly. Do you know what EDP stands for, Alejandro?
I want to guess and say enterprise device protection, but that's not.
That's
Correct.
wait, this is in 92. Yeah. You
92. Wait,
gotta rewind.
environmental. Oh, EDP. I'm assuming environmental. Give me a hint for the E.
Something with computer.
Oh, then no. I'm thinking mainframes. I'm thinking like a cold room in the 90s in the middle of university.
It was still mainframe. It's electronic, but they did have electronic word, electronic
Electronic device protection.
data
Oh, data protection. No.
processing,
Oh, I'm
electronic data
gone.
processing. This
Wow.
was this was before the word IT was born. So this was the precursor, the
This is the before
dinosaurs.
times. Hey,
Right.
DARPA was what, 60s? No, DARPA was probably 65, 70. I'm wrong. I should have let me Google that real quick.
Yeah,
DARPA.
exactly. I don't remember, but at that time that was what it was called, electronic data processing audit. If you translate that to today's environment, it is IT auditing or cybersecurity audit, however you want to say it. But back then it was electronic data processing. Yeah, I had no idea what it was. I was just giddy because I said, okay, as long as I can combine the accounting and then the computer, maybe I can deal with the accounting part.
And then it goes out. Because that's how we all end up into it. Similar to you. I was like, I'm a business major, did accounting, got to forensic accounting, and was like, I am A-okay. I am good. I was like, I am going to transfer to information systems.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, so that was kind of the precursor of it, and I was in that profession for a while. So my clients were in, I lived in DC, so there was a lot of government agency and everything. Again, mainframe. We had not had the distributed computing system then.
Mm-hmm.
Even just transferring data from the mainframe to like a brick of laptop, it took, usually we would do it over the weekend using big cables because it would take that long.
Oh, we
Days
are
and
lucky.
nights.
We have fiber now with all the trust.
Oh no, not even fiber. It's just nowadays, whatever, it's just instantaneous, right? You've got a virtual server, boom.
Boom, you're done.
Um, but yeah, so that was, and I guess I stuck with being in that realm, being an EDP audit, and then later on, they call it the information systems audit, and they call it the IT audit, right? And then what I learned though from that experience that I was very good at, this is sharing with the audience here. Sometimes you discover your talents also accidentally in your journey, and I did not know that I just knew that I was always bossy, but then being a constructive feedback for myself, that oh no, I know actually how to put things together from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
People were always having issues like, okay, we need to have an IT audit here, but we don't know how to start. So, oh yeah, I can do it for you. So I discovered that as a talent. I said, oh, okay. And I actually enjoy that, building something from the ground up. And with the pivoting later on, going into a information risk management area, another back then big six accounting firm. That's when it was the consulting arm of a public accounting firm, but not necessarily in the IT audit side, but in the information risk management. Actually, instead of doing the audit, the consultants, I was one of the consultants, were building the program that was being audited by the IT auditors. If you want to talk about, hey, the disaster recovery policy, I can't even remember what would be the terms like
BCP,
this.
continuity.
Exactly. Any type of
Yeah.
consulting that would be part of the general audit in the IT audit world. So the consulting world would be that engineers that build that program. And that information risk management principle or field, that later on again evolved to become IT security, and nowadays it's called cybersecurity. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I accidentally came from the EDP audit part to become a cybersecurity.
I love that journey because it's similar, where you never know how we end up. And plus, it shows to a lot of our viewers right now that items change. The field changes. We get rebranded. We go through it, like considering something such as platform engineering. It was SRE. SRE then became platform engineering. Platform engineering then became DevOps. And DevOps, like ironically, you're doing the same thing for most of the role. It's just adding a little component here or detracting another one from there. So, oh, yeah. So I learned a new term, electrical data processing. So now that we talked about your
Electronic,
career,
not electrical.
oh, sorry, electronic. Thank you for correcting me on that part. I'm like, I'm so nervous when I do these sometimes. I gotta like laugh it up sometimes and say, hey.
Oh yeah.
I guess my advice is, what advice would you give to either younger you or people who are starting out in the profession of cybersecurity of what it's become today?
Yes, I have several actually, but one of them that kept reminding me, and I have to keep learning, unlearning, relearning it, is that I'm so passionate in the field of cybersecurity, and that consumed my world, right? And then to the point where not everyone's world is revolving around the cybersecurity, but no, we think it should be. Example, when I was a IT security analyst starting out, this was pre-Patch Tuesday from Microsoft. I worked for an oil and gas company, and then of course Microsoft would, you know, in the early days they just start publishing their vulnerabilities, and then they would classify it as extremely critical because there's the vulnerability out in the wild, blah 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 blah. And so as a young me, I would just take it, okay. I would tell my boss, we have to patch immediately, and
That's
boom,
critical.
yes, we still have to test and everything else without understanding the business side of it. So your passion and your business need to be in alignment.
Align always. You
So
cannot
that
block
patch, exactly, that patch automatically rebooted a drilling that was going on.
business.
And all of a sudden when the drill stopped, they lost a bunch of money. In oil and gas business, every minute, every second counts.
Yep.
So my boss got the call, of course, so you can't do that, you need to communicate with us, you need to plan it, blah, blah, blah. Just because you think it's emergency, it's not an emergency for all that.
Yep.
So that was lesson number one for me. My passion needs to be in context with the business and the bigger objective. Cybersecurity to me still, and I still want to keep it, is everything, but then everything also has a place and time. So
In a similar boat to you, I've also broken a lot. Who hasn't?
that's how we learn.
That's how you learn. How did that relationship with your boss go? Like when that call came in, was it like, not to pick apart, how was surviving? Because in my mind, who hasn't won? I'm not gonna say this publicly, but I'll say it with y'all. Oh, who hasn't lost a business a couple $1,000s every now and then? Oh, but how do you feel like? What type of relationship do you have with your manager at that point? Like he could be like, hey, it's like let's talk about this and let's talk about this lesson that we can learn here regarding not blocking business and how to make sure that we test it and prepare it. Because blocking a drill from, I don't want to know what the drill is running, but blocking a drill from finishing its production, to me, that would have scared me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then also I learned that I wanted to be a leader like him. He was not mad at me. He gave me a very good lesson.
Mm-hmm.
He took the bullet for me. Right. He was still a good leader. Actually, next week I don't know, I just posted about me being awarded leadership award, and this is going to be a big celebration. I invited all my former bosses, and this one was one of them, because then I learned as a leader, it's my job to tell my team, to guide them how to do things. Right. And so my boss never got mad at me, blamed me or anything. He took the bullet. He said, Didi, it is my responsibility to, I needed to tell you that we needed to do this, communication, blah, blah, blah. Instead of feeling scared, I felt grateful, in the sense that, wow, that lesson actually stuck with me. I just wanted to do much better after that versus being mad, being scared, being whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having that negative emotion, negative energy, I wanted to do much better. I wanted to make my boss proud. And again, I took notes, mental notes, and everything else. I wanted to be a leader like him when I get there, to take care of my team, not to blame my team for things, and to take the accountability and responsibility as a leader.
Yes. And pay attention, y'all, in the chat. This is good management right there. This is a leader. This is someone who understands the complexity of their team, that understands how to play them in play, and doesn't just leave it. There's a lot of managers these days who sometimes like to say, I'm here to empower you. You decide. But they don't actually help lead. And then when problems arise, they're like, well, it's your fault. And her manager took a bullet for her. And I'm proud of y'all for that, because there's not many people who would do that. So which brings me to my next question then. As a minority leader, what would you say is your biggest challenges in today's business environment?
So this is the challenge, right? The challenge, it's both as being a minority leader and then as just a cybersecurity in general.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with being a cybersecurity leader challenges. It is not easy, but we don't do things easily. If we do things easily, then everyone could do it, right?
Yes.
There's no shortcut for this, for anything. The challenge is that you still have people, management, and everything else who still believe that cybersecurity is an IT issue, and therefore you only deal with the operational. It's not a business issue. It's not a business partnership. So we keep having to talk and influence the idea and educating the business and everything else. We should be your partner and talk about it. Remember my first mistake, because I didn't understand the business, and so I stopped the drilling. Right?
Yeah.
But if I had been there working together with the business, we would have said, hey, there's an emergency patch comes in. When can we schedule and all that stuff? And that was part of postmortem, the lessons learned. So that's the inherent challenge being a cybersecurity leader, being a CISO, being a leader, and all that stuff. Now, being the minority leader kind of takes it to the next level. When you look for an ally to solve the same cybersecurity issues, it's easier when you find someone that you could identify with, right? Yeah. Just human nature. When you go into a room with full of everyone who doesn't look like me, but they all look alike, they're going to tend to talk to each other and exclude me unconsciously, not intentionally. Okay. This is unintentional. So I would have to keep inserting myself in the conversation, reminding them I'm there. And I don't know if you've seen me in the conference. I'm not very tall. I'm 5 foot on a good hair day. So when my hair is flat, I'm probably 4'11".
I feel you. My curls help me. I get that in the DLV, the Department of Licensing, or DMV. That's how I get the 6 foot. I can say I'm 6 foot because of the curls.
Yeah, so in addition to that, so I need to really physically present. So I need to be articulate, to be stern, wearing bright clothes so that people could see me. It's all, learning all that to overcome that. So those are one of the areas being a minority leaders. But now with all the DEI and everything else, what really concerns me, Mary and I share this, is that people tend to think that, hey, since you're a minority, why don't you head or lead the ERG group for this, either women in minority or the Asian American or whatever, right?
Yeah.
In that. But again, that's a non-promotable task. It's not part of a performance review. That is an administrative, which I'm passionate about, in addition to my day job.
Yep.
But when it comes to performance review, they don't add that, say, hey, good job getting this program up, blah, blah. No. They're going to focus on, hey, by the way, you didn't meet the deadlines for all whatever the assignment
For
that
your
you
main business projects.
exactly.
Yep.
Well, because I was doing this well, this is a priority, right? Things like that. So that's one of the challenges that I faced.
No, and I understand you. A lot of minorities end up having that challenge where we're educated in subjects like critical race and other items or how to deal with social justice issues. And you get managers who then tell you, you're really good at this. How about you transition out or you go do that? And I'm not sure if you remember Tylissa from the conference. Tylissa spoke on this one too, where she said, this is my hobby, not my work life. Like if you like to cut wood all the time, how about you go become a lumberjack? And then it finally clicked for her boss. I like, oh, I didn't realize that's what I was doing to you. And I'm like, yeah. And my first job as well, I fell into that loop where I ended up launching ERG groups, doing initiatives, social initiatives for a company. I'm like, what am I? Wait, I'm here doing cybersecurity and IT. Why am I? I'm out here recruiting, doing all this other stuff. I'm like, oof, I am tired. I need to focus on my own Jira tickets and get my own stuff too. So yeah, that is definitely a hard trap to avoid when you're first on out.
So sharing this in the community, there's a Harvard Business Review actually had an article on this, and when I teach the course, I share the link as well. I'll look for the link. It's called NPT, non-promotable tasks.
Yeah.
Now that we all know and aware about it, when we are assigned those NPTs, we can ask, okay, what kind of resources do I have? I have the other job. What is the priority on this? And then have them commit to you, provide you with resources or lower the other responsibilities, whatever it is. Not just say, oh, I'm so honored that you choose me to lead this ERG group. And I'm honored, but yeah, at the same time, don't penalize me.
And I laugh because I have, what is it called? Oh, I had to start thinking about it as my hours are billable, even when I'm on salary. So for every task you add on to me, I want to make sure you're not lowering my billable hour rate by overtasking me with work. Because at the end of the day, I still got other stuff to do. So where do you want me to be most effective? Oh, so we talked about non-promotable tasks, and I wanted to ask, as it relates to your like personal journey, what is like the most powerful tool in your arsenal when you were like changing positions, like as you were getting up there to C-suite, as you became a CISO, and like you started moving out from individual contributor, lead, how did you? A lot of us sometimes face barriers or the glass ceilings, or even just we have trouble moving up. What was in your tool belt when you were doing this whole journey by yourself?
Very good question. I'm pausing a little bit here.
I can ask a fun one. I can ask what is your astrology sign as well? To buy you time.
Gemini, so I have multiple personalities.
Ooh, we have a Gemini in the chat today. It's okay. I'm a Leo.
Okay, well, I don't judge then. I don't judge others who are singular. I'm kidding.
Which face am I talking to on this one? Let me know when the other one comes around.
For me, this is not that I just came out with this self-discovery, right? It took years in the making. I was 30 years in the corporate world. So I have books and books of my journals and all that. So it's all through the self-discovery. And it was pointed out to me too that, I didn't even recognize it as one of my gifts. Personalize the connection. So when I would join an organization, trying to understand, because automatically I need to develop the relationships with the business, with my team, with my management, you name it, within IT, outside IT, and everything else. I learned that the common denominator for everyone to kind of just connect and everything is at the human level, right? I don't come in saying that, hey, the first 30 days, this is what we're going to do. The next 60 days, this is the next 90 days. I mean, I had that in my head, but I
You're
would.
not out here saying, I'm here to clean house, 30, 60, 90. Where's
Your
the
baby's
PKI?
ugly. Wash with her. Exactly. No, you can't do that.
No.
So it's that connection. I would just say, hey, I'm new here. Sometimes I don't even tell them what I do, right? Just I don't want to intimidate them. I'm new here. I'd like to learn more about your business and everything else. And most of the time, and this is again through coaching and everything, people love talking about themselves. So when you ask them about them, tell them, ask them what, share with you what they do, what they're passionate about, what ticks them off, everything else. It's organically, they would talk about work as well, what ticks them off at work, things like that, their pain points and everything else. So that was my arsenal that after I was told that I need to leverage that, that's when I realized, okay, my first 90 days when I join an organization is just to meet people and listen, make connections. They don't need to know. And afterwards, I tell them what I do, but I don't need to come in and say, hey, by the way, I'm the new CISO here. Let's talk about your business. That's
She's
usually
undercover.
like,
She's undercover. Because you're drawing the power from the information of the relationship, not the sorting title. And I love that.
Exactly. So that's one of them. The other one is goodness, what other arsenal? Just when this is actually when no, it was both COVID and non-COVID. I initiated my meetings with my teams because my team was global. I mean, literally, we had people all over the world. But every week we had a team meeting, and I wanted to make sure that we wanted to keep it short, within an hour, and everyone got to speak. One of the things that really, really connected the team was I had this book called Creativity Sprint. I know, and I met an artist through a leadership course at GE. So what I asked my team is to create something, and I pick whatever from the book. But they only get to spend 5 minutes on the thing, and this is, I don't have to watch them. They don't over-engineer everything and use whatever resources, such as, hey, create something electronic, within 5 minutes, whatever resources in front of you. So it's all just trying to tap into everyone's creativity side of the brain. And I'm not an artist at all. I'm not creative at all, but kind of that makes me say, oh, okay. And to embrace imperfection as well, right? Because we tend to overthink and want to be perfect, creating everything.
Always.
And then in that 1 hour meeting, the first 45 minutes, so the meeting went quickly on the update because everyone wanted to showcase their creation for that month. So we did it every month.
Oh, I love.
And so
I'm
that
gonna steal that from you. I'm gonna steal that from you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so
And I have
good.
the book. I can share that with you as well. And that is actually, and then people who used to, remember, these people never met in person because they're all in different regions, different countries. When they used to come to me individually, having friction with each other, that team building activities every month that we did kind of like broke down all the barriers. It's like, oh my God, that is so funny. I like that creation, whatever. They were just, So those are the two things that I that were in my arsenal that I kept bringing whenever I joined a new organization.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you broke down barriers, especially it's hard with global teams and you're round robining. It's hard for people not get siloed and not to just be like, oh, I'm on the London team and that's it, especially when you're at a huge corporation. Similar to you, I did the same with when I was at my last megacorp job. I started working with other teams in their time zones to ensure that I could be like, hey, let's talk. So you walked us through this whole career journey from start to finish. Advice. What's next for you? Like where are you heading? If I was to say, Didi, 10 years from now, what are we doing?
Oh, I'm an open book. You already see that what I'm doing right now. I don't know whether you've been following me on LinkedIn, but so in addition to my firm, remember, I wanted to focus on the small to medium-sized business who can't afford to hire a full-time CISO. I also just started, and today was the second time we met. We call it Cybersecurity Circle.
Okay.
This is held at Houston. So I live in Houston. Houston has a tech center called the Ion. And then there's this guy, and he's getting famous, and I love this guy named Joey Sanchez, who's every Friday he just says cup of Joey. He loves connecting people. Cup of Joey, right? You just come in, anyone. You network, therapy, whatever. And his question is, what is your purpose? What is your why?
Oh.
Why? Just in general.
Okay.
So I just started going there a month ago. And then the second time I went, I had not met him at all. Second time I met him, he said, "Hey, what's your purpose?" On the spot. And I don't know what spirit came to me, or maybe the other side of the Gemini showed up saying, and I just said, "I don't want the bad guys to win." It's like, oh, in what sense? I said, "I don't want cyber criminals to win."
Yeah.
And so he said, "Didi, I'm going to share my platform to host a cybersecurity circle." Like I was in heaven. So now we have this cybersecurity circle. Any cybersecurity enthusiast professionals can join. And then also, I've also noticed, right, when I speak in big conferences, they are very exclusive. They don't want to invite certain people. They don't want to invite students. And I'm passionate about developing the next talents in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So this place, the cybersecurity circle, is going to be is very inclusive. We had 2 high school students today, and we had 3 university graduates, just recently graduates or graduating, and everyone can come in. And we talk about I know, watch for this. We talked about pig butchering. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, where they kill the pig. Yeah. Or wait, never mind. Sorry.
No,
I'll
we're
let
in
you
the
go.
cybersecurity world here. We don't
Sorry.
butcher
I was
pigs.
like, wait.
Anyone
go off
knows in the
topic?
chat? Do you guys, anyone in the chat want to talk about pig butchering? What you know?
I'm gonna Google and see what I can see real quick.
It's an online scam.
Oh.
So the idea is that they borrow the idea from farmers. They want to fatten a pig so that they can butcher at the end. So this
Okay.
is an online scam, well, a cyber scam. They start by sending you error message like, "Hey, even though you're Alejandro, I'll call you. I knew your number, but I just say, 'Hey, Natalie, can you walk the dogs today?'" Naturally, you said wrong number, right? Then you open that communication. Then the scammer will start trying to get to know you, befriend you, and everything else. If you're male, they're gonna post like a female, make you fall in love. And they say, "Hey, by the way," when you ask each other, "What do you guys do?" "Oh, nothing. I'm just an investor. I'm really big in this cryptocurrency. Yeah, if you're interested in investing with me," then boom.
They grab you.
So anyway,
Yep.
so today that was the topic, pig butchering.
Wow, you learned
And
something
the
new.
idea of the cybersecurity circle is to create that awareness. We're going to spread this message to everyone because they target vulnerable people. Yeah, the technical people, we may kind of like, we may be immune to that. But people who are either young or old or vulnerable, lonely, whatever, they may fall into the scam. We need to spread this message. So that's next for me, Alejandro. It's a long answer. I want to create this community where we all become the cyber defenders against cyber crimes.
Yes.
And you don't have to be in the cybersecurity field, technical and all that. So.
Oh, trust. And I think that reminds me every time we go to the conference that like cybersecurity looks different for each and every one of us and how we bring it into our organizations and how we bring it into day-to-day life. Like, I didn't realize pig butchering was a thing right now. And I'm like, wow, this is actually like, for me, I was just like telling my mom, don't respond to that on WhatsApp. Stop telling people what you're doing. Don't share pictures of your nieces and nephews everywhere online.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm like, just keep it. Nope. Only talk to people who you know. That's it. And it's hard to like, why is the internet? Go be friends with whatever. And now it's the reverse of like, hey, let's not do that.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
worried, man. I got 2 kids in college. It's
oh, you get it then. Yeah.
so
So you're doing cybersecurity circle. Is that your how else are you staying up to date with cybersecurity? Like how else are you like learning about emerging threats and like keeping yourself in like kind of in the know? Because I think the worst thing that can happen to a CISO is when we fall out and our practices kind of like they end up again if you're applying Microsoft's Windows Server 2012 or 2003 techniques into the modern environment, people are going to look at you and be like, "What?"
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I read a lot, right? There's so many, of course, there's so many newsletters and articles out there, but I'm very kind of selective what I'm reading. And then being engaged in the cybersecurity communities, either I'm already part of the Evanta CISO community, and we meet just regularly, either through vendor sponsored meetings or just catching up, talk about the current issues, current challenges. And that's the real, I call it the family and friends ISAC. You're all familiar with
Tell me,
ISAC, right? There's the, yeah.
tell us more. Tell us more, Dee. Tell us more.
Yeah, ISAC is an information, the what do you call it? The legit definition, Information Sharing and Analytics Center. It is actually a quasi-government and private sectors. ISAC has been around since the 90s, like the financial ISAC. Finance ISAC is probably I could be wrong, but I think is the first and more mature, because the financial industry has been a critical infrastructure for this country.
Yes.
Right. So the government with their intels work with the banks and financial institutions to say, hey, these are all the intels from the crimes all over the world and how we watch for this, and then whatever there's indicators of compromises, other intel that they could implement to secure the environment. And then from that finance ISAC, there's ONG, which is oil and gas ISAC, there's retail ISAC, you name it. If you Google ISAC, it'll come like maybe 16, 17 different ISACs out there. So, and then, but that one, very formal, and I call it friends and family ISAC, is this us talking about pig butchering, tell our family, this is the latest intel. Yeah, don't do this. Watch out for that.
Always, always. Well, like I'm not sure if you've seen that new like TikTok where like they're talking about how in the Philippines there's no serial killers or there's like low serial killers because everybody's always information sharing with each other and it's through the form of like, oh, it's technically gossiping. I'm like, no, that is a community protecting each other. I'm like, we have to start doing that here because if we're communicating, especially when it comes to some of these cyber scams that like AI is mocking your voice of your child and saying, send me $5,000 right now. Or like you're hearing what sounds like your mother on the phone and you're like, oh my God, they're like, don't call the cops. If you call your aunt or someone else, it's like, oh, she's right here. What do you mean she's kidnapped or someone else? Or like, oh yeah, you got the scam call. Move on. Like type of thing. That's how we protect each other for the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to be mindful of time. We got about 10 to 15 minutes left. I'm looking through my questions. I prepared another 5. I'm trying to see which ones I want to select for you because you're a fun person to talk to. So I want to say we've talked about strategies for development within your company. What are strategies you employ to foster a culture of security awareness at your company? Like how do you, because you talked about how you learned to partner early on and you learned to like, okay, knowing the business needs and then knowing the security needs and knowing when those meet. How are you implementing that now as a CISO, especially as a consulting CISO too, with your advisory business and not getting pushback from companies that you enter at? And they're like, well, she's just a temporary CISO. She's not here for whatever, stuff like that. Because trust me, I've been in both.
Well, when they bring me as a fractional CISO, they know that they pay me by the hour. So if you don't want to follow the advice,
It's the other, you get paid more.
there's nothing I can do about it, right? No, but the way to do things is, for example, some of the clients would have actually already the typical cybersecurity awareness program, like I don't even remember, know before and all that, that phishing exercises and everything, which is good, right? But it can get complacent. People can get complacent if you don't refresh it. So you do want to refresh that. And my usually the way I would like to refresh the most of the smaller companies, they don't really have an acceptable use policy. So I would create that acceptable use policy for them, or draft it. And then it has languages like, hey, what to post in social media, what's okay, what's not okay, and all that stuff. And have employees, even though they've been there for a while, for example, read that policy and agree on it, right? And you can do that either pushing it through your online program, or some kind of like small town halls. Oh, I know in smaller companies, you don't really necessarily have big town halls and everything, but just like, hey, now our company is doing acceptable use policy, and these are the do's and the don'ts, right? So that's kind of a way to refresh the training and awareness. And if they don't have a training and awareness, it is challenging, because also what comes down to it is the budget. And the easiest way for me, what I would do is I would create posters, printable posters for them, but make it easy, eye-catching, fun. For example, one of them would be sharing your password is like sharing bubblegum.
It's disgusting. Right? Don't do it.
It caught their eyes, and there's and you can print that on the kitchen, whatever, things like that. So it depends on the size of the organization and what the culture is like. So there are ways of doing that. But yeah, it is very, very important to understand the current state first, what they perceive cybersecurity as. Again, we don't want them to think that it's an IT issue. No, they are part of the defense. So empowering them to do that.
And especially educating such a wide user base too. That's a toughie. I'm gonna reiterate something that Nat said in the chat real quick. For anybody who has a question, feel free to use the Q&A button or just send the chat for a question for Dee. I'll ask one more question and then we'll turn to the audience questions. So my last question for you is, like, looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest challenge for the field of cybersecurity and our industry?
Ooh. The challenge back, I think we need to overcome it at many different layers, right? I'm glad that the government is starting to kind of connect with us. I've been outspoken about it. When I was the chair for the American Petroleum Institute, I had access communication to the White House, lawmakers, and all that stuff. I was very, very outspoken about, hey, we don't necessarily, the oil and gas at that time, don't necessarily want it to be regulated, but these are the things that we need the government to do, right? And it took a long time because, for example, they would penalize the owners and operators of the company for, say, not meeting a certain regulations. I'm going to use a concrete example. In the oil and gas, a lot of this is the OT side of the world, right? The operational technology, industrial control system is not the enterprise IT. Those equipments are usually old and not compatible with the Windows, and they're not TCP/IP based necessarily. And that's why they have to be segmented, air-gapped, and all that. You've heard of all the terms. And if you reboot one of the machines, meaning that you have to shut down the whole operations, and again, you lose money and all that stuff.
Then we become a business blocker.
Yeah, the government come back and say, no, your password requirement should be minimum 10 characters, change it every 90 days. Gov is not going to work in the OT side of the environment. You can't even shut down every year without scheduling it, let alone every 90 days you have to change password. So the government is starting to realize, okay, we need to understand what the owners and operators need in order to operate, right? Because we need to make money to pay taxes and for the whole ecosystem. The other side of the challenge is the original equipment manufacturers, the OEM, the one who make those equipments, devices. By the time they arrive at the customer's site, they're out of date. So they push patches for the functionality, not necessarily for security. So the burden is on the owners, operators, on the customers to do all that patches operationally and securely, right?
Yes.
So my call to action for them is that let the three of us, government, OEMs, and owners, operators, talk to each other, understand what we need so that you can govern us. And a couple months ago, CISA and the FBI published or republished or whatever it is that they have done a joint guidelines on secure by design. Now it's beyond enterprise level. It's all the way to the customers. What they're saying is that security needs to be included in the design phase of a product lifecycle management. The design, okay? So when whatever that device arrives at the customers, it should be just plug and play and a minimum intervention from the users, because a lot of users now are not technical enough to do that. All appliances are now 99% probably smart appliances. You know, when your parents, for example, buy a refrigerator, not necessarily you, Alejandro, it could be, do they know that the Wi-Fi is by default on? They probably don't.
Nope, they didn't. I had to turn it all off for my mom when we bought her a new kitchen. I'm like, great, I have to set the firewall rules for my mom's kitchen, the oven, the stove, and
Exactly.
then the microwave for some reason. LG's like, hey, it has tooling and diagnostic support. I'm like, why? Turn off.
Yeah.
Why does my microwave need to talk to the dryer?
So the idea is that, yeah, sure, if you want to put Wi-Fi on, but put robust security controls so your parents don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
What about you are not around? And so it's getting there. So that's one of the challenges in the near future that I'm envisioning. The three of us are not talking well together, but I want us to talk together.
I agree, because I think the future is very much in the sense that policy needs to catch up to what is out there publicly, and understanding at the end of the day how, for example, I forgot what I was looking at. I think I just completed a SOC 2 and for my company, and I realized that YubiKey and passkeys weren't allowed as a secondary substitution control for having MFA. It was like MFA should be on, and it should be on a keychain device or something else. And I was like, well, I have all my engineers have to YubiKey into the environment and then SSO into Google before they can access their actual dev environments. And they're like,
right,
oh, we can't take a YubiKey as a secondary control for that. Do you have another way? I'm like, I can text them codes. And they're like, well, yeah, that worked. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. So it's funny how I think you're right. We have to catch up and synchronize or have some sort of, what ISO wanted to do was like, hey, here's our rules and regulations, kind of push that with, have like other organizations catch up as well. Yeah. So for everyone, thank you so much for joining us real quick. This has been the MiC Leads Aspire Sessions with Didi and hosted by Alejandro. Hey! You had a Leo and a Gemini talking today through multitudes. I hope that y'all took away some important lessons. I'll post some of the notes I took today in our Discord chat as well. Didi, do you have any circle? Do you want to shout out any program or any circle or any LinkedIn messages?
Yeah, if I'm gonna share with you my my profile, because if you have any questions, I post a bunch of stuff. The pig butchering was posted today. If you have any questions or anything,
feel free to reach out.
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna use you as a resource and say, hey, I have tons of questions as a junior CISO. I'm kind of like, Let's talk. What's your hourly rate? Can I get my company to afford you?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Joyce. Here, let me stop the recording and kill the live stream. Let me see my last thing. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Today has been an awesome session with our host and our special guest, Dee. This has been sponsored by MiC Talent Solutions. Be sure to reach out to us and look out for any future updates on our websites and our social at MiC Leads, at MiC Talent, and be ready to apply for our next MiC Rap apprenticeship session as well. Any questions can be redirected to Mary Cheney, and we'll go